Hey folks, I'm totally not named Dan, and if I sound a little bit different today, I'm sorry, but my throat is absolutely killing me. However, I still wanted to make this video to go over some more UniVersus stuff, specifically the different types of effects this time. Last time we looked at the card types and specifically where their effects can be played. This time we're going to look at the effect types and when each of them can be played. So, we're going to start with Shoji, who shows off on the top there. The simplest one, you'll see, has a nice blue word saying form. A form effect is an effect that you can play basically anytime you can play a card normally during your turn. Playing a card is considered a form, so is playing a form ability. Usually they will have a restriction like this one does of once per turn, because otherwise you can just use them indefinitely. They usually don't have any other restrictions, but I mean sometimes they will. Then Shoji also has Enhance Commit, so a commit cost on an Enhance ability. Enhance abilities are orange and yellow or red and yellow, nice gradient going on there, and they can be played during attacks, specifically during the Enhance step. Once an attack is played, you'll have the ability to respond to it, then the attack will become active, and once it's active, players will take it in turns to play Enhances. And that is when Enhance abilities can be played. And they can have a variety of effects, but they'll usually do something that helps your attack or helps you get more attacks in some way. Or the inverse, they'll shut down your opponents. Each Enhance can only be played once per Enhance step unless otherwise stated, but if you have an Enhance that doesn't require you to commit or flip or whatever, you can end up using it across multiple attacks in a turn. So once per attack, or once per Enhance step is the restriction on those. Then we have It Can't Be Fixed to show off the green and white response ability. This one has a flip cost, so you are only going to be able to use it once, but otherwise you can use response effects once per trigger, or rather once per response window as it's referred to. And responses will tell you exactly when their response window is in the effect text. So after the colon of response flip, this one says after you commit any number of cards due to your rival's effect. So that's when you can play this ability. As long as this card is in your stage, because it's a foundation, anytime you commit any number of cards due to your rival's effect, you can use this. Even if you commit this card, because this card also says playable while committed. Usually, it would have to be ready for the effect, but playable while committed gets you around that. So that is how responses work. You'll also see responses that maybe specify they work from a specific zone. All abilities can work from a zone other than the zone where they would normally work if the card text says so. But responses in particular have a wide variety of where and when they can take effect. Then there's one final fourth effect type, and this one doesn't have a color. Or at least it doesn't have a color when written normally. If a keyword has this effect type, the keyword will be colored blue and purple as though it was a form. I don't fully understand why they chose to use form coloration for this type, because this type is not a form. This type is a static. So Summon Dark Shadow has a line of text that says, while this card is in your card pool, your attacks get +1 speed and +1 damage. This means if this card enters your card pool, all your attacks get +1 speed and +1 damage. And if an attack enters your card pool while this is there, your attacks get +1 speed and +1 damage. Now, this is not an optional effect, because there's no may in it or anything, and this is not an activated effect in any way. You don't announce it, you don't pay any costs for it. All it is while this card is there, that happens. But yeah, because this isn't an effect that you have to activate, this effect takes place faster than any responses or enhances or anything like that. So if your opponent wants to respond to Summon Dark Shadow entering your card pool, they can, but by the time they do so, this effect will have already taken effect. I should note as well, this is not a floating effect like you would see in some other card games. Floating modifiers don't really exist in this game, so while it says while this card is in your card pool, your attacks get +1 speed and +1 damage, if this card leaves your card pool, they won't lose that buff, because that buff has been applied and just is what their damage and speed is now. So that is how statics work, that is how responses work, and that is how forms work and enhances work. To recap, responses once per response window, enhances once per enhance step, forms whenever you're free to do them, unless there's a restriction in the cost or effect of the card itself. And statics, they just play themselves, you have no control over them. That's all from me this time, and I guess we'll go over the keywords next, and we'll take a look at which keywords are just traits and which ones actually have effects. You may notice in future that there aren't any on these cards, but they're all color-coded, so you get a pretty good idea of what sort of effect each keyword is or isn't. See you then, everyone. Bye.